Well, hey there, everyone. All right, welcome to this live workshop. As some of you are just kind of making your way in, I just want to make sure that you can see me and hear me okay. And if you are smelling me, that is a whole nother thing we could talk about later. But we've got a lot of people saying hello, so I just want to say what's up to everybody. But let me know if you can hear me and see me okay, that the audio, and you should be able to see my screen. I've got an Ableton Live session going on right now, and I am super excited. So, Brunito says, hey, what's up? We've got You Suck at Producing in the house. What's up, my man? Brento Box, everything looks good. V, good to see you. We could be, yeah, this is amazing. All right, guys, as Chasing Colors, hey, everybody. We've got a lot of familiar faces in here, so we've got a lot of Beat Academy members. And for those of you who are just kind of finding your way in here just through the YouTube channel, I want to welcome you. Excited for you to be on here. What are we doing today? So today is going to be a live workshop. This is something I'm excited about. This is an opportunity. We're going to be doing some Q&A. We're going to be listening to some members' music. But today's topic and the workshop that I want to just spend some time investing in is talking about producing indie pop. I'm going to be covering a session that's a song that kind of fits the genre in and fits in that indie pop lane, and just kind of cover some of the fundamental basics, some of the nuances and the bold DNA of tracks that really kind of that you find most common characteristics. There you go. That's what I was trying to say. The most common characteristics you normally find on a lot of songs that are associated with indie pop, and really just how you can implement them and take the sounds that you hear on records like Tame Impala, MGMT, M83, Maggie Rogers, and so many more that are in this genre. How do you convey that into your own unique style into your production? So if this is something you guys are interested in, let me know by hitting the letter Y and entering that into the chat. So if you're interested in learning how to kind of capture that indie pop sound, but yet utilize that into your projects, but still have your own fingerprint and make it your own, if that's something that interests you, let me know. That would be really cool to see. GT Music says yes. Anthony K. T.Y. All right, T's good too. Maybe terrific. You're like, terrific. We got a lot of people saying yeah. All right, cool. So for those of you who are just kind of making your way in, super excited to have you. I'm just going to let you know right up front, there is an in-depth course that I've created called Producing Indie Pop, and I'm going to be highlighting that course and really referencing a lot from that course, because there I go into extreme detail, ironing out a lot of the nuances that cover some of these fundamentals and essentials that you're going to be using in creating in this style of music. So and unfortunately, just because of time restraints, I won't be able to get into so much detail here, and I want to leave some room to answer your questions as well. But I do want to refer you to our indie pop producing course over at beatacademy.com. And what's really cool is that for a limited time until Monday midnight, I'm going to be allowing the course to be sold at a 50% discount. So if you haven't already, click the link below in the description box. There's going to be more information on how you can jump on the Producing Indie Pop course at a 50% discount. This course covers every aspect, and we're really going to just touch the surface here, but hopefully we can get to some of the questions that you guys have about producing this. So what I want to do before we get started, I know I want to stop rambling. I know I have a bunch of Beat Academy members here with us today, so kudos to you guys. Thank you so much. What I'd love to do is, if you've taken the indie pop course already, could you just let me know? Can you say yes? And throughout the chat, I would love to see, I want to just highlight some of the wins from people who've taken that course. So if you've taken the How to Produce Indie Pop course and there was a golden nugget or an aha moment for you from that course, I'd love if you could just share that in the comment below. That just means a lot to me, because yeah, having the course out there is one thing, but seeing lives impacted by the mentoring and the resources that I'm putting out is everything to me right now. So let me know. Geoff Duncan says yes, it was awesome. No Data Interpreter says yes, best course ever. Geoff Duncan, learned some dope stuff in there. All right, Thank you guys. Keep doing that. If you've taken the course and you're watching this, you're jumping online, comment below what are some of the things that have impacted you from taking that course. All right, without further ado, let's get into this. Okay, so I've got a session here. This is a song called Spaces by an artist I've been developing for some time now, Jared Evan. Him and I go way back, and it's been great to see the evolution of developing an artist. I first got him signed to a record label called Interscope, and then we got dropped from that label, and then we started to go indie, and so there's been a lot of ebbs and flows to his sound and his career, and it's been awesome to be a part of shaping that. So here's a song. It's called Spaces. I want to go ahead and just play a little bit of this, and then just kind of break down some of the fundamentals, the common characteristics that you can find in songs from artists like Tame Impala, MGMT, M83, Maggie Rogers, Churches, and so much more. All right, so let me just play a little bit of this. This is called Spaces from Jared Evan.
Look at you fall in love. Tell me you don't feel the same now. I'm holding on to keep the buzz. Thought you would just hit the ground. If we take up these spaces, baby, would you feel me out?
All right, cool. So that was just our first verse and first chorus. Let's first talk about the definition of indie pop. I mean, it could be so elusive, and it's just kind of all over the place. And what really fits into that category? And a lot of you might be asking, indie pop, what's how's it different from regular pop? Well, the way I like to classify it is that indie pop is really something that isn't as specifically pop-centric or focused, so the boundaries as to where you can go arrangement-wise, and usually there's a unique type of texture and intimacy to the actual fidelity of the recording. It doesn't really line up to maybe just something that has a typical pop production or arrangement. So, like I would say, artists that line up to this would be somebody like the 1975, M83, MGMT, Tame Impala, and so focusing more on the Tame Impala or the live band approach, I want to focus in on one of the main characteristics, and that is a specific type of warmth. So I'm going to be spotlighting the Tame Impala type sound, and we're going to direct our attention over to drums. Now, drums, and what makes it really distinct in the indie pop sort of way, is really the warmth, right? Warmth. And so if you had a live drum kit, and for those of you who are drummers, I would love to hear from you here. But for those who aren't savvy or don't have the luxury of having a drum set in line, we are just such a blessing to be able to produce music nowadays, and with the availability of technology and the virtual instruments that we have. And so it really does come down to how you set up the drum set, right? How do we have, normally with a lot of indie pop, specifically with Tame Impala, and those type of drums, you're getting a very dry, warm sound. But what does that mean? So that means that a lot of the tuning of the drum heads are tuned down, so you get more of a deeper type of tone from them, and they're muffled. So that muffled type of tone gives you, it's not as bright, it's not as big, meaning it's not anthemic, there's not a lot of room ambience, there's not a lot of reverb on the drums. But I want to walk you through a couple things that can really, it's not just about capturing the type of sound. Okay, how do you get the Tame Impala type of sound? But how do you make it your own and unique? So here's two things I want to work on. So let's focus on our drum bus here. Okay, so I've got the drum bus. We'll take it from the verse. So a couple things here that are really distinct. Let's focus in on my main set. And the main core of the sound is really coming from my acoustic drum kit here. Now, you could browse around, record your drums in real time, you know, if you actually have a drum setting to work with, or use drum loops. I'm all for it. I mean, it really at the end of the day is, no matter if you're just using a drum break, an acoustic drum break that you gotten from Splice or somewhere else, and you're putting it in your project, is it really cheating? It doesn't even matter, because at the end of the day, the person on the other side of the laptop doesn't care, or doesn't even know whether you recorded it or played a drum loop, right? So it's all about, how does this allow you to lay the groundwork for writing the song that you're trying to write, and take the listener on the journey that you want to take them on. So that's really, really important. So here I'm using the vintage dry drum kit. It makes a huge difference on the type of drums, the way they're mic'd, and things like that. So what I've done, even specifically within the kit here with Addictive Drums, and I'll walk through how you can kind of recreate this using maybe any other type of drum kit. So I want to take like a Native Instruments studio drummer and see what we can do to kind of get near that type of sound. But I've even changed out the size of the cymbal, right? And with just a little bit of research and just digging into like what are some of the bands, you know, that I like that have this type of sound, what kind of drum set are they using? But for the most part, the smaller the cymbal, detuning the snare, you know, and then not really accenting a lot of the room reverb. So let me just go ahead and play you the drum kit without any of the processing. And then let me actually go over here and eliminate, just disable all sends, so that you're just hearing the drum kit raw. So on the surface, yeah, that's pretty good. Let me go ahead and let me see if I can just, I'm gonna save this really quick. I'm gonna save this preset. We'll give it vintage ill. All right, and we'll just save that there. Hit save, and then let's just, I'll browse through another regular drum kit, right? Maybe a standard, maybe just like a, here we'll go with something like this. As you can see, starting with the right type of sounds makes a big difference. So obviously this drum kit has a bigger room that it's working in. So the room mic is capturing a lot more ambient. So it's a lot more larger than life. This would be great for a rock, straightforward rock type of kit or type of a song. So I'm gonna see if I can go ahead and undo that. Well, we'll just go here and load the kit that I had. But for right now, let me see, I'll go back, browse to the vintage dry. Let me see if I can, should be able to load. Where's my user? Let me just search for ill. There we go, vintage ill. All right, and we'll just go and load that, and that's our kit. So I'm really just dialing down a lot of the room mic. So I don't want a lot of that ambience. We want it dry. So dry, getting that Tame Impala drum sound really is drying them up. And then if you had the opportunity to place towels over the snare drum and things like that, that would really be beneficial. And so what would a towel do to the snare drum? Well, it muffles it up. You're getting rid of a lot of the high end frequencies, right? So you can even do that directly on any snare drum acoustically that you might have by just EQing some of that high end off. Right, you can maybe focus in, if your VST drum plugin lets you do that, on the top of the snare rather than on the snares on the bottom. And that gets me more of that type of feel. So that's good there in getting like the type of samples and the sounds. And now it's about adding the type of texture to it. So I'm going to be using another excellent plugin here, the RC20 Retro Color. And actually, in the Producing Indie Pop course that I have available in the link down below, I actually walk you through, I created a free Ableton Live RC20 plugin, which you can access and download there. And I just using stock plugins and how to kind of recreate this type of sound. But I'm using this here on this just to kind of add a little bit of that, some of the noise and distortion from some tube. And really, your EQ is the secret sauce to getting the tone that you're looking for with these drums. So we've got the EQ shaving off a lot of the high end here and a lot of the low end to thin it out, because those drums aren't really subby, right? It's not going to have a lot of bottom end like you would with maybe some hip hop drums. So this is going to be a bit thinner and a lot warmer. So think warmer, less high end. That's cool. And now we can add the overdrive to really give some of the texture on the high mids. I'm going to go to the snare, and I'm going to give a little bit more snare from the bottom mic. That's going to help it go through. And then you can do things, a simple filter will go a long way as well, because I'm just shaving off everything from 17 and you know, anything beyond that was going off. So, but wait a second. Ew, I don't get it. Why are you taking away? You're using this RC20 plugin and you're removing high end, but then you're removing more high end. Well, yeah, because I'm adding the overdrive, and that's adding some more harmonic distortion and some more, you know, frequencies there. And I just want to now use a filter to kind of put a blanket over that as well. So, does this make sense? Let me know in the chat. You following along so far? Am I going too fast? Is this too slow? You guys let me know. What we're focusing here on is producing indie pop. And one of the fundamental or essential elements is kind of getting and zeroing in your drum sound. So that's what we're working on right now for those of you who are just joining us. So, how are we doing? Does this make sense? I just want to make sure you guys are getting it. Surreal G is like, yo, perfect sense. For fans of Wet Circles, yes. What a crazy name. It's great, makes sense. Momillion, it's lit. Golden Keys of Sound Design, great. Okay, yeah, so think about it. Like, what are the attributes of this? The Tame Impala drums, very warm, very dry. So we're not trying to accentuate and have a lot of room presence. So overhead are totally fine. But now, let's add some smack to this, just a little bit. And I'm using the Analog Obsession, the D comp. Lately, I've just been having a lot of issues with my UAD plugins, and I normally use like the DB160 plugin, but this has been a great replacement for that, and it's free, so it's pretty good. So we're using this to get some more of that punch back into the drums, and then an EQ afterwards. Now, this EQ is really in the context of the mix, right? So I'm EQing this in context of everything else. Now, what's great is you can have your program drums layered with breakbeats or sample drums. Bjorn is asking, do I humanize the drums? Yes, absolutely. When it comes to indie pop, but yet when we talk about like M83 or the 1975, and when you're using more of those 80s retro throwback type of drums, which we'll talk about, those drums could be a little bit more stiffer. These drums on the MIDI side can be a lot looser. What do I mean that? You want to go ahead and make sure that the velocity and your MIDI performance reflects the amount of energy and time you're putting into the actual sound design of the drums. You can have the best plugins and EQs on your drums, but if the timing doesn't feel right, if the groove isn't knocking and getting your head to knock, then you're missing the point, right? And that is so important. So as you can see here, you capture that by actually being able to nudge and not have everything perfectly on the grid. Now, a lot of you might be, are yet not savvy with using your MIDI controller to actually program your drums. That's okay. You can draw in your patterns by double clicking, or if you're using Logic or any other DAW, you would draw in the sequence. It's important that you utilize the velocity changes with the drums, that you also make sure that your grids, the drums aren't perfectly on. As you can see, we have a kick drum here and a snare that's a little bit ahead. The kick drum's a little loose. So oftentimes, if I'm drawing in my notes, I will purposely go in and nudge some of these notes around. And it makes sense a little here when you have some of the tom fills. When it comes to fills and using fills to introduce new sections, believe it or not, here's a great way to create fills and different turnaround takes when it comes to creating live drums. So watch with me here, guys. All right, I'm going to go here into my session view window in Ableton Live. And what I'm going to do is just write a bunch of, let's do about 3 or 4 clips. Okay, these are all 1 bar clips, and that you can extend them to 2 bars, 4 bars. I usually keep it 1 to 2 bars. In here, what I'll do is I will create, so let me just give you an example. I'll click and drag this over to this bar here. I'll give these a different color so you can kind of follow along easier. So this will be fill number 1, this one right here. Right, that's fill number 1, and I'm just going to duplicate that so that's the same exact clip below that. And here we'll go ahead and change this up, and maybe just change either the what I'm playing, what I'm hitting, or the actual pattern as well. And we'll preview that. So then what I'm doing is duplicating a whole bunch of these, and I'm just kind of shifting the notes around, shifting the patterns, and then I have what I have on hand are about 5 or 6 different unique fills that I can then go like this, click, hit tab, and sprinkle throughout my arrangement. So it adds more of that humanistic approach when you're creating drums. So I can add that one here, and now I'll hit this so that we can play the back to the arrangement button and listen to the. So I've got all these cool little turnarounds that I can go ahead and implement throughout my arrangement, because that's going to be important too. All right, moving on really quick. Layering the drums is so important. We've got our main acoustic drum kit here, but I'm also going to layer with a kick and snare on my drum rack. And this is just really to help accentuate the low end and the crispiness of the snare. So how would you treat your layers? This is how you should treat your layers. You get your main sound. For us, it's going to be the Addictive Drums drum kit that we just created. That's the main spotlight drum tone. That's the main guy. Then use your layering, not so much that it's trying to overpower or overshadow your main drums, but you're using it to accent certain frequencies. So the layers are really meant to bolster frequency ranges, but not necessarily the actual main beat, if that makes sense. So I want to beef up a little bit of the low end. I want to have a little bit more sub and beef, and I also want a little bit more grit to the snare. That's what I'm treating my drum layer for. That's what my kick and snare are for. They're not to be battling my main drum kit for the actual to be in the spotlight beat wise. Does that make sense? I want to take a moment, go to the chat. Does that make sense for everybody in there? Grabuster is asking, what about phase cancellation, Ivan? Well, phase cancellation would make sense if I don't have to worry too much about phase cancellation. And for those of you who are asking, well, phase cancellation, that's where 2 sounds are in. They're starting to cancel each other out because the waveform are perfectly, or they're basically opposite of one another, and so it's just canceling each other out. So, for that, if you're feeling like you're getting a lot of phase cancellation, I really don't think that deep about it. I just find another kick. Then I don't have to worry about it because this kick is completely different and the snare is completely different from the actual drum kit. And then I now have another layer of drums, but this is a drum break, and this is just to actually capture the texture, the crackle, and the overall sonic vibe. Okay, this is just like a throwback drum break. Let me just play it in its natural form. But what's crazy is I've actually repitched this drum kit. So here's the drum kit normal. All right, normal drum kit. It's amazing what repitching and playing this twice as slow will do to add texture to your drums. That's almost good enough to use as the main beat as well, but I don't want to do that. I just want to go ahead and keep the vibe and texture, sonic texture to this. So we use an EQ to cut away all the kick and snare. Why? Because I'm doing that with my I'm doing that already with my drum rack here. So and then you're just blending those together. We've just got a little bit of processing here to add some saturation, the drum bus, and I'm using the plugin Alliance, the SSL strip here, and that's fine. Just a little bit of compression, some EQing. Okay, so any questions on that? What about transients of the layered drums and the main drums interfering with each other like flamming? How do you treat that? What a great question. XSeb01. Okay, so what he's asking is, what happens when you got layers, but man, the transients of these drums all together, it just becomes a mess. That goes right back to the importance of having you know, like my main acoustic drums a little bit sloppy, not perfectly on the grid. But then what I do is I can use things like Transient Shapers to eliminate the attacks of some of those transients. So something as simple as a DS10 drum shaper, or there are plenty of free transient plugins out there. What I would do is I would go ahead and just remove some of the attack right off of this one, and increase some of the sustain, so that I'm actually capturing more of the vibe that I want from that drum sound rather than the actual hit. And there you go. And that's how you actually get them sitting well together. So that was a good question, because what you want to do is, it's important when you layer your drums, it's important that each layer has a purpose. You gotta get out of the habit of layering and processing just for the sake of feeling good. There's this illusion that takes place in our minds to think that when we add a plugin, we've added progress. Listen to this. Let me say this again. There's a trick that our mind does to associate adding a plugin is adding progress. Did you guys get that? That is necessarily not the case. As a matter of fact, adding plugins could be adding problems. Ooh, come on now, preach it, preach it. What am I getting at here? This is about the purpose of layering your sounds together. Like I wanted more beef, but I didn't want to EQ the acoustic drums, because when I EQ the drums, it's adding something I don't like what it's adding to the acoustic drums or whatever. So rather than trying to squeeze life out of my acoustic drum kit, I can simply just layer with that drum kit a deeper kick and another snare. And that would probably be better than trying to get my low end back from my acoustic drum kit and stuff like that. So that's what we're trying to do here. The purpose behind layering is so that the end result accumulates to the vibe that you're looking for. So that's more or less. So we've got this warm Tame Impala type of sound here. I wouldn't go far as to say that Tame would probably have less of this throwback. So it would be less of that kind of throwback here. But I like the texture that this drum loop gives in context to the rest of this track.
Look at you fall in love. Tell me you don't feel the same now. I'm holding on to keep the buzz.
Now, two cool things you can do to kind of make this now your own, and which I've done here, is I've added some effect processing. So I've got a return track B over here with a slapback delay. And slapback delay, so I've got a delay here set to every 16th note. I have it set to stereo, and I'm making sure to eliminate some of the low end. Here, I'm getting rid of the low end with an EQ and some of the high end to make it warm. But I'm kind of tweaking the timing of my right signal. All right, tweaking the timing of my right signal. And then look what happens when I start to send some of my drums to the slapback delay.
Look at you fall in love.
It just winds up and spreads really nicely. So it's really, really cool. And so that's adding character to it, right? That's kind of like my little thing I like to do. And then I add a flanger on return track C right here. And so I'm cutting out all the low end so that doesn't go into the flanger, and I'm using Waves Meta Flanger. And this is really cool. This is now going to add movement, sonic movement to the drums. So what can be cool is throughout my arrangement is I can add some automation and increase the sending to the flanger during my choruses. And so I realistically don't have to boost the volume of my drums. I can send more of it to the flange, and it starts to bob and weave throughout the mix, and it just feels really cool and just kind of captures it captures the vibe a lot nicer than just kind of raising the overall volume of the drums. All right, does that make sense? So what I want to do now is take some time to go. We're gonna pause here. I want to remind you guys, this workshop, if you're just walking in, if you're just kind of strolling into our live stream here, what we're doing is focusing specifically on producing indie pop, right? What are some of the common characteristics that we can find in guys like Tame Impala, MGMT, M83, Maggie Rogers, I always keep messing up her name, and so on. So I want to just get some of the questions you guys have. And by the way, we're just scratching the surface today. And I really want to point your direction to the Producing Indie Pop course. So if you see the link below in this video, you can just go ahead and do that. I'm also going to paste this in the chat. You can go to beatacademy.com/indiepop and take advantage of the course. It's right now going to be at 50% off till Monday night. Monday night, I'm closing it back up and it's going right back to its regular price. In that course, I go full in depth about how do you create that throwback 1975 type sound, the M83. We go over about vocal production. We cover the mixing, the mastering, and all that. So let's dive into some of these questions. All right. Hi, Ivan. I have a question out of topic. Which headphones do you use for mixing? The ones I'm wearing now. I think this is the Audio Technica, or wait. Yeah, ATH M50, M40. Honestly, I do a lot of my mixing in my monitors, and I know my room, and it's familiar. But when I just use this, the most important thing when you're using headphones to mix is just have a reference. That's always going to be the best. Doesn't matter what headphone you use, just use a reference. All right. Rodith Reddy is asking how to write natural sounding guitar melodies on Midi. All right, I'm going to talk about guitars in a little bit. So hopefully during that time, stick around and we can answer that. All right. Thanks for making this live workshop. You are welcome, Lylon. Biodynamics are good too. Yeah. That vocal chop is sick. Thanks. We'll walk through some of these things here. Somebody was like, "Yo, that thing you said about plugins." Yeah, I'm guilty of it too. The illusion of thinking putting another plugin equals progress. It could. You just have to understand what am I needing and what plugin can help you do that. Catherine Saul. Love you too, Catherine. Thanks for all the love. That's awesome. Seto Ness, any tips for creating piano tracks for someone who doesn't play piano? The unison, no. I'm not gonna pitch the unison chord pack. That's a whole nother workshop. I'll talk about my feelings about MIDI chord pads. Listen, if you're not playing piano, there are plenty of other tools. There's the Captain chords, which I strongly recommend the Captain chords plugins. They're very helpful in understanding chord progressions and kind of getting at least the basic foundation down. But yeah, more and more these DAWs are making it very easy for you to kind of just narrow in on the scale and focus on what it is, the notes that belong in that scale to write in. So Igor, have you ever created funk? Phonk. Now I've created funk funk, but I guess the funk, that cowbell, the distorted cowbell genre, it's so crazy how genres pop up. No, man, I haven't yet. Hopefully one day me and E40 can get in the studio and crank some out, but no. Can you make a Charlie Puth light switch video? Maybe. I don't know. Subscribe and see. Where do you find your drum breaks? Benjamin M. Baker is asking. Now, I find my drum breaks. First of all, guys, I've been producing for a living, meaning my last 9 to 5, for 19 years. So I have been blessed Literally, this has been a blessing to be able to produce music for a living for the past 19 years. And throughout that, working alongside guys like Timberland and Danger Hands, Jimmy Douglas, and all this. I mean, this has just been years of accumulating samples and drum breaks and things like that. So a big portion of my archive on my drive, when you see these places here in my Ableton Live, these are just bookmarks of places on my hard drive. Those are all just from years of rubbing shoulders with other great producers and things like that. But that was needed because I didn't have Splice. I didn't have sounds.com at the time. So now you guys have the ability to just really, you have thousands of samples at your disposal with Splice and things like that. So that's amazing. And I don't look down on that. I just simply say, hey, you have resources now readily available for you to just drag and drop into your DAW. So you no longer have the hurdle of like, why I don't have sounds. Well, you can get access to sounds now. It's not just about the sounds, it's knowing how you use those sounds and make them your own to articulate your music out to the world. And that's why I created Beat Academies, to help people do that. It's not only, I didn't want it just to be, hey, here's where you can get your resources, but okay, now that I have all these resources and I'm overwhelmed with my options, how do I actually make the music I want to make? That's what Beat Academy is for. So there's a lot of that going on in there. All right. So you've been producing since you were 5? In the womb, son. To this day. So yeah, no. Yeah, thank you guys. I was producing drum and bass music out of high school, and I started doing some remix work for Timberland, and then that got me into the whole pop production stuff. So, all right, let's dive a little bit back into our topic at hand here. I want to focus in on this chorus section for the song. This is Jared Evans' Spaces. Now, a big part of producing indie pop is that there's a unique characteristic with vocals. I'm going to spend time talking about vocals. First of all, do you guys want me to talk about vocals? Let me know in the chat room. Can you hit the letter Y if you want to dive a little bit into vocal production stuff, or should we go into something else? How about the kazoo? Leland saying yes. Dave M, I assume that's Dave Murphy. Yay. Pelzi, yes, vocals. Okay, so apparently nobody wants anything to do with vocals. All right, let's get into vocal. Let's get into some vocal productions. Now, here, 1 second, guys. Let me just swap this out. Okay, message. And I'm just going to put this in here as we get started. All right, so I'm pinning the message, the link to the indie pop course, because that'll go further in depth. Okay, so vocals. A lot of indie pop artists, the very thing that really attracts and gravitates people to their favorite artists in the indie pop genre, and this can also be said for pop and many things, is really the uniqueness of the vocal production, right? But 80% of it is really stemming from the uniqueness of the vocal delivery. I think what happens is we tend to often feel like, what's the secret sauce for the vocals so that my vocals can end up the same way? And just as I described in the indie pop course, a lot of work goes into the delivery and the performance, meaning rehearsing the part. Feeling comfortable in your skin is really the biggest win when it comes to getting great vocals. And what I mean by that is just kind of finding that unique spot, even changing the key signature, figuring out what range is going to work best, melody delivery, and all these things really do play a part. So that's a big aspect to it. So let me go into the lead vocal here, and let's just highlight all this, and I'm going to walk through one by one what we're currently doing here with Jared's vocal. So let me disable all the sends, and so we're hearing the vocal dry. Now, a lot of the work that I'm doing with Jared throughout the years of working with him is really just focusing on the nuance. Now, this is something very unique for Jared. Before, we were doing just a lot of hip hop and a lot of rap production on Jared's stuff previously. And when I was writing this and we're working on this in the studio, Jared was like, bro, I've been really digging this kind of vibe, and I would love to do a record like this. So he had to do a switch in his mind to kind of get in the zone for this. So this was a little bit more falsetto, and it plays a big role here. So let's take it from the verse.
Look at you and fall in love. Tell me you don't feel the same now.
Okay, so I always do my vocal buses. I always group my lead vocals together. That's what you see here. All the lead vocals are going to go through this lead vocal bus. So let me see if I have some earlier rough takes. What do we have? I hope I don't embarrass him here, but let's see what we got.
Look at you and fall in love.
Right, okay, so those are like the rough takes we were just recording when we were coming up with ideas for the melody. All right, so here we have, it's a very falsetto type of vibe, but immediately what I wanted to do was create this chorusy, moving type of vocal, and that's what we're going to focus on. So these are just kind of like the basic essential stuff to kind of just get the vocal sounding clean. And we have a gate to take out any noise.
Look at you and fall in love.
Right, so no background noise. I record the vocals literally right behind me in the studio that you're seeing right now. Some tuning, making sure we've got some tuning going on. Waves tune here. We're just doing a little bit of EQ here. I don't want you guys to think this is the vocal chain that's going to save your life. That's why I'm not spending time dialing in. This is in context to get this specific vocal clean here, and I'm using some compression. So we're tuning the vocal. We're controlling dynamics. I'm using this compressor here by Brainworks.
Look at you and fall in love.
Right.
Tell me you don't feel the same now.
Okay. Using a little bit of soothe to take out some of the resonance here that I was personally hearing.
Look at you and fall in love.
This is also another, I know there's a little weird glitchy stuff happening here, but this is also another really another cool de-essing, and I'm using two de-essers here. One to focus in on a specific frequency set to the high pass, and the other de-esser is set, I think, yeah, to a band pass. So they're working side by side with one another.
Look at you and fall in love. Tell me you don't feel the same now.
Now something similar to like Tame Impala's vocals, where there's well, we'll get to that in a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. Here is an EQ to brighten the vocal back up.
Look at you and fall in love. Tell me you don't feel the same now.
Okay. Now the processing makes a big difference. So here I created an audio effect rack because I'm inserting these plugins. I want to insert these plugins specifically to alter the character and sound of the vocal, the lead vocal. So I wanted that Tame Impala M83 type of effect. So I've created a dry chain. So we want the dry vocal as the first layer. You guys follow me, right? And then a second chain here, which is the effects chain. I'm using the Ableton Live Phaser Flanger, but setting it to the doubler. Here's the big key here. The doubler is set to I'm cranking the feedback a little bit. So I'm going to combine the doubler with the dry, and this is what we get.
Look at you fall in love. Tell me you don't feel the same now.
Okay, big difference, right? It's causing a lot of something. So if you're using Logic, and I know some of you are watching, and I'm reading the chat. Okay, that's great, you're in Ableton, but I'm using Studio One, I'm using Pro Tools, I'm using Logic, I'm using FL Studio, I'm using my neighbor's calculator. How do I create this? Okay, create an auxiliary track or a bus track, okay? And on that bus track, put a doubler or a delay effect. Essentially, that's all you're really doing. Create a very quick delay. And you can do this by taking the delay off of the sync option where it's syncing up to your project and set it over to the milliseconds or the timing project and dial in the time of the delay till you get a really cool, that same type of effect. So let me walk you through that and I'll show you what I mean here. So here is the dry vocal. I'm going to create a chain. This is the same thing as creating an auxiliary and blending it in, okay? And you would get just a normal delay plugin. Now, the reason why I didn't do this in the first place is just I ended up using the doubler. But if you're using Logic and you're in the same boat, here's what you can do, right? On your return track, your delay plugin is going to be completely 100% wet.
Look at you.
We're going to take the sync off and we're gonna go by milliseconds. And let's just make this really short.
Look at you and fall in love.
All right, now you're already getting some of that flange effect here. So let's just narrow the filter here, and we're gonna unchain this, and we're just gonna mix this up a little bit.
Look at you and fall in love. Tell me you don't feel the same now.
And then you can play around with the feedback.
Look at you and fall in love. Tell me you don't feel the same now. I'm holding on to keep the buzz.
And now just balance out the signal of that.
Look at you and fall in love. Tell me you don't feel the same now.
And get a nice short feedback. Does that make sense, everybody? So that's kind of how you would kind of emulate that type of feel using Logic or any other. You want to have maybe just a really quick delay. In here, I've got the doubler.
Look at you and fall in love. Tell me you don't feel the same now.
And I'm just kind of automating and balancing that out to give that kind of cool, unique tone or character to the vocal. This is without it.
Look at you and fall in love. Tell me you don't feel the same now.
Right?
I'm holding on to keep the buzz.
So then, as you can see, there's another chain here. Let me just delete this so it's not causing any confusion. And we've got the room. And this just gets automated every now and then.
Look at you and fall in love.
Now, the reason why I'm putting it directly on the lead vocal is because I want it to be the lead vocal's DNA, right? And that's what. So if you're putting the delay right on that, just adjust the dry and wet till you get the right sweet spot. And then we're gonna enable some of these effects here to create some space in the track.
Look at you and fall in love.
So I've got a delay here on, it's the Spectral time delay in Ableton Live. Don't sleep on this delay, guys. If you're using Ableton Live, this delay is nuts. It's bonkers because it comes up with all these resonance in the delay, and it does some really cool stuff.
Look at you and fall in love. Tell me you don't feel the same now.
So just taking my time to automate specific words in this performance.
Fall in love.
All right. And then in context, this is what it feels like.
Fall in love. Tell me you don't feel the same now. I'm holding on to keep the buzz. Don't you wanna just hit the ground? If we take up these spaces.
This is it dry without the effect.
Fall in love. Tell me you don't feel the same now.
So without the effect, what it does is just makes the vocal just right up front. It's a bit too polished, and it doesn't fit in the same vibe as the drums and the bass. So when we're creating indie pop, you really have to be, you do have to be adamant with making sure that every element you're adding in there, does it fit in the same ecosystem? Does it fit with the same texture and vibe that the other elements do? I mean, especially when it comes to vocals. So you can warm up vocals, you can do a whole bunch of things that can really help it, but adding direct effects to this, you know, choruses, doublers, delays, slapback delays, that's what's really going to help create the vocal and have it fit in the same ecosystem as the rest of the track.
Fall in love. Tell me you don't feel the same now.
Somebody's asking about the bass. The bass is a Moto bass. I'm using the Hofner bass plugin. Muting this thing. Lately I've stopped using the Moto. These are some old sessions, but I'm using a lot of my bass here, and I'm recording live bass. But this one was just great. It's just a great plugin to have, and just making sure that I want more of that off. I love the Hofner bass model here because you get a lot of that finger, like dunk, dunk, that thing in it. It's really good. But easy bass, waves, you know, Scarby bass. There's Scarby or Scarabi or however you say it. They're all great. It's just, you know, making sure that you're able to, just similar like what we did with the acoustic drums, just knowing what to do to kind of shape the sound to the way you want it. Since we're on the topic of bass, we'll go ahead and wrap this up a little bit. A little bit of bass. I want to talk about some of the synth stuff, and then I want to get to some of your questions. Does that sound cool, guys? Yes. All right. So I've got a couple layers happening purposely with the bass. And arrangement-wise, we just have drums and bass for the verses. And then when we get into the chorus, you notice there's a bass track, there's a sub bass, and then there's another bass here. So we've got my first bass. All right. I'm duplicating the same part, meaning I'm dragging the same MIDI performance to a track here. And this is just my sub bass. Now, why am I only having the sub bass in the chorus and not the verses? Well, because if I want the chorus to have more of an impact, introducing low end sub just in the choruses can be a great method of doing that. Freaking microphone. So, so someone's asking, Michael's about, hey, do you mix your moto bass with an 808 bass? Not necessarily an 808. I'll mix the moto bass with a sub. So I'm using the operator, basically just one oscillator set to a sine wave. Anything with a sine wave will get the job done. So here is the sub bass. You probably should use headphones if you're listening on a laptop. Yeah. And that's just sub frequency. And I'm using it, and I'm not boasting it either. It's just there so that it creates the feel and the heaviness there when the chorus drops. And then there's another bass here that I've actually used my Novation bass station here. Let me see if you guys can see. So this is Love this synth by Novation. And that's what you see this MIDI for. I'm routing the MIDI out to the bass station. I'm just recording it back in. And this is just moving, it's adding some growl to it. So if I put these two other ones together. Why am I adding that growl in there? Well, I don't know. I thought it'd be cool. But I really added it because I wanted tension to be created. I wanted tension to be created with the bass. As you can see, it starts to growl even more towards the end. So it's just kind of, it slides in and it starts to build and it growls and the filter opens up and it gets darker and grittier, and then it comes back down. That's adding dynamics to my arrangement, and that makes a big difference there as we start to incorporate, as we start to move in from the chorus into the next verse. So that contrast between all that going on in the chorus and then shutting up just back to the bass and drums with no sub makes such a big difference. And so you having that contrast can really be helpful. So say someone's asking, no bass bus? You know what? I did have a bass bus, I think on my final mix. And normally what I would do is just kind of group these basses together and just create a bass bus. But I like the balance I had. That's why I didn't really create one here. But normally I would do a bass bus, do just a little bit of compression, but yeah, that worked out fine the way it is. And then we have a couple things here with the keys. So we'll go here with some of the synth stuff. But before we do, I just want to remind everybody who's watching right now, hey, we're talking about producing indie pop. What are some common characteristics that you can find on artists like Tame Impala, MGMT, that lady across the street? That would be a cool artist name. But anyways, we're just kind of scratching the surface here. But this, if you want to go in depth, if you really want to go in depth about how to capture that indie pop sound into your own productions and make them your own, you're not just replicating a Tame Impala, but you're putting your own fingerprint on there, I would encourage you, go ahead and check the link below. visit beatacademy.com/indiepop, and I have my full course on 50% sale right now till Monday. Monday, I'm going to close it and it's go right back up to its pricing. So check that course out. I go in depth there, and as a matter of fact, Tuesday I'm going to be adding three more videos into the course. So once you purchase the course, you get access to any updates, and I'm always updating my course because I'm learning, and the more I learn, the more I want to pour into your life. So I'm adding stuff all the time. So I'm going to be adding some more vocal production stuff into the indie pop course. So if you haven't yet, check it out. And I want to just answer some questions right now. So what do you guys have? So I bet it's hard to make that bass with a VSTi. No, not that it's hard, but man, I'll tell you what. I'm a big fan of the hybrid scenario where you've got some hardware stuff, or whether it's just a guitar or just some hardware synths into, and combining that with virtual instruments. And it's not that you can't get that same sound with virtual instruments. You very much can. But yet there's something that goes on in my brain when I'm playing the keys here, and I'm turning the knobs and I'm tweaking it, and just the emotion that I'm getting when I'm playing, that is also being captured into that, and the sound as well. So it has a characteristic of its own. It sounds good, and I like that. And so it's more of the emotional state that I'm in when I'm using hardware synths into that. But it's not necessarily, you don't need it to make music. You don't need it to create that. So that's the balance there. So speaking for vocal production, can you touch on this distinct vocal style from Lanny? It is a chorus or a doubler. I don't know. Oh, Lanny. I don't know. I would have to point to the song to be exact. But if vocals are sounding wide, most likely it's a chorus and sometimes a doubler. But it's at the very root of it, it's a delay. That's essentially what a chorus and a doubler is. It's just delaying the signal at just a different timing. What is on your dry section of your vocal effects chain? Here. So what is on the dry? Nothing. Everything to the left is the dry vocal chain. So the tuning, the EQ, compression, the de-essing is there, and then I affect both the affected vocal and the dry vocal with a compressor here. This is a compressor I ran into Matthew Lang. I think I downloaded it and was trying it out, and I was like, this is kind of cool. It's one of those plugins where it's just the two knobs, and they have, it's doing all the work underneath that. And I was like, all right, it seems to do this. A little bit of gentle compression and adding some crispy air to the top end here. A question for later. How and on which tracks did you pull off that filter sweep in the breakdown section of the song? I know this is supposed to be easy, but I almost never get to sound it right. The filter sweep. The bridge of the song. Let's go to the bridge. Let me see what you're talking about here.
Like the sun, moon, and the stars, you are my solar system. Even if life was on Mars and we were living in another dimension, I'm stuck on who you are. You got me floating 'cause you fill these spaces in my
Such my favorite part, that bridge and that transition into the chorus. I'm sorry, I forgot. So what are you asking? The filter sweep. There's a couple of things happening here. I've got the Poly D Moog here. I would just say the Behringer Poly D. Really trying to tap into that psychedelic rock thing, right? And then the guitars are doing a lot here. Here are the electric guitars, and this is one of my favorite. I love Rat-a-tat, but I love there's a so I'm using Guitar Rig 5. I haven't been up to date, but I love the harmonic synthesizer. Such a great sound. It's something I just loved and adored and always used. And so when at the end of these, okay, that play. The reason why I'm starting here is because this all plays a role. So what I've got going on is I am automating. Okay, I'm automating that delay on return track A. And that spectral time delay that I told you about earlier here, it doesn't just make a delay, it causes all these resonance to happen, and it gives all these cool little glittery things here. So that's a really cool thing. So I've got that on the last note there. And I'm doing the same thing here with my Moog that I recorded. So I'm just opening up the filter there. And then we have the sweep. Now the sweep is from Arcade. So this is just a... And I love using Arcade for this. This is where Arcade shines the most for me, personally. Is I use like Stitch. And I just go through and find a couple key things as little things to bridge the gaps here. So that little sweep and the tonal part of it is really cool. I took some of the guitar parts from the chorus. Here's a great trick, you guys. Sounds like, I can feel it coming in. Yeah. So I took my chorus guitar part that I recorded. Okay, it's the guitar rig, heavy on the AC box, but with some reverb on there. Just taking that and putting your chorus guitar progression and flipping that in reverse for bridges are really cool.
Floating 'cause you feel these spaces in my
All right, so let's get to more of your questions before we wrap up today's workshop. So let me backtrack a little bit. So far in the workshop, what we've talked about are what are some of the common characteristics. Focusing on the drums. Gosh, I can't talk. Focusing on the drums. They're usually warm, intimate. We're not getting a lot of big reverb, stuff like that. And we can use drum layering to just add more of the dimension that we're looking for. And then a way you can make them your own is by adding some slap delay and some flanging to kind of add some movement to the drums throughout the arrangement. Then we talked about vocals, how vocals can sometimes have a very unique character to them, and how some slapback delay or doubling could be used directly inserted on the vocal, tweaking around with the dry and wet to getting that right balance. Then with synths, with the bass, mostly we cover with the bass how you can introduce different layers in your arrangement so that you can create some lift and impact in different transitional places throughout your arrangement. Yes, I know these are some of the things that we just nearly scratched the surface, but I walk you through and more in-depth walking of more in the indie pop course. There's a lot more time spending into like the 1975, the MGMT. I think I actually cover the Electric Feel, that song, the Electric Feel, and kind of catching that vibe in there. So yeah, we spent a lot of time covering a lot of the bass and stuff like that in there. So I want to take some time here. Let me answer like a couple more questions. Then I want to play some songs from my Beat Academy members. I want to showcase some members who've actually taken the course, have produced some stuff. I want to kind of give them some pointers and feedback and how they can take to the next level some of the songs. So what do we got here? On the guitar swell, the compressor clipping isn't important. Benedict is asking, hey, is it important that the compressor is being clipped? You tell me. Did you hear the clipping of the compressor on that side? Maybe on the YouTube stream, but no, like it ain't broke, it ain't fixing. It wasn't crazy, it didn't sound bad, and yeah, I left it that way, and that was it. I really don't get, if I get caught up with the numbers and mixing with my eyes, I'll get lost. But if I'm start mixing with like how it feels and the way, you know, the emotion that's coming across with it and the blend there, that's where you want to start. That's where you want to start to make those kind of decisions from. Where can we listen to this song? Gustavo's asking. This song is an artist, Jared Evan. So look up Jared Evan. Song is called Spaces. He just released an album in which I produced about maybe 90% of the album. And Spaces and Love Bent, which is similar, are on this album too. So you can hear, we had it mastered, a good friend of mine, and then yeah, so you can hear the finished product there. This is the actual mix. I think this was before the final mix. You can see here the sum end. This is the record. That's actually the mix right there. I actually have a summing mixer here, and talk about that later on. All right, do you double vocals? Yes, I do double vocals. As a matter of fact, these vocals here are doubled, but a lot of my productions, I'll have maybe like 30 vocal tracks. It all depends. Here, usually I would like record four vocal takes, but honestly here, just doubling the lows and doubling the lead was just fine.
Baby, we're space and time.
And what's cool is what I've got going on, his main lead vocal is a falsetto vocal.
Baby, we're space and time.
So the main is the falsetto. So he's doing falsetto as a lead. The double, we're not doubling the falsetto, we're just playing low ones and we're doubling those. And on those, I have a cool flanger by Brainworks, the ADA flanger, right on those vocals, and that's really helping those low vocals to become really...
Baby, we're space and time.
Because he's talking about space and time, and I just wanted it to swirl around. And then I have a low vox here that really helps support those.
Space and time.
It sounds like freaking weird Muppet, but it's using the little altar boy, changing the format a little bit, and adding some drive. This is really kind of my texture vocal. That's what I'm using it for.
Space and time. Baby, we're space and time.
And then only in the harmonies do we introduce a little bit more of the vocal stack there.
If we take up this space.
Nope, sorry, that's the wrong section. Right here in the chorus, we add some harmonies. And those vocals too. So we get this in a lot of like indie pop as well. Fleet Foxes and guys like that really rock the plate reverb very well. So yeah. How not to overproduce. When do you feel the song is finished? And that's a great question. There's so many things I could add to this, but attempted. But honestly, if you walk away from a song that you're working on, and you were to write down, like being away from the DAW, you wrote down, okay, what 3 things do I feel need to be added here for this song to be finished? Well, if you're missing a verse or a chorus, I mean, those are 2 big things you should be adding. But usually what I tend to do is don't deviate from the original core or spark that got me and Jared excited about the song in the first place. You know, and that really comes down to the workflow and just creating a workflow that allows you to get the most important aspect of the song. And to me personally, it was, you know, the actual chorus. I started with creating the verse. That's what we started with, just creating this verse vibe. And then we ventured into creating the chorus and having that vocal chop in there. But that was it. Once I had those essential things, I just started arranging it and making sure what's the journey that we want to take the listener on, and have we done that with what we currently have? If we haven't, what 2 things do I need to add to get there? All right. I talk about the songwriting and arrangement aspect as well. The producing indie pop course doesn't just cover sound design. It's the whole top to bottom, you know, the arranging and what constitutes, you know, what are some of the common characteristics in the actual song arrangement. So if you're struggling with, man, I get this 4-bar or 8-bar loop mentality and I'm stuck in there. How do I flush that out to a full song? We get in depth about that in the course as well. So click the link because it's going to be 50% off till Monday. All right. And now, where's the video going to be? So I'll leave this posted up so you guys can, you know, watch the replay and backtrack here. I do want to spend some time going over some of my Beat Academy members. So if you're brand new, or if you're just jumping on to the YouTube live stream and workshop, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. And my Beat Academy members have access at once or twice a month. What we do is we do live listening sessions where they submit their work, they submit their tracks that they're working on, and I literally listen to them on the fly and give some constructive feedback and helping them taking the next step with their songs. So if you're interested in that and you're looking for some more accountability with producing your music, then you definitely want to look into becoming a Beat Academy member. Visit beatacademy.com for more info. But these are some of the members who have taken the indie pop course, and just want to highlight, take some time to go through them. So here's Selwyn, and let's just take a listen.
I never noticed what I've become, how far I wandered to chase all I want, but still you stayed here, through it with me. Yeah, I never noticed, and it feels like I was painting on my own, but still you call me home. I know I burned too many bridges down, but still you call me home. And I don't know what you see in me to love, but still I'm running, yeah, I'm running home. I'm running home, yeah, I'm running home to you. I'm running home, yeah, I'm running home to you.
Oh man. Okay, I want to stop there because I think what would really help lift, and almost like what we covered earlier, great job. I mean, man, you definitely have got the skeleton there, the good bones to work with, and the vocal is really sweet. I mean, you've got a great tone there. I don't know if it's you or you're working with somebody else there, but what would really help take that section and lift it up is having the bass introduced there, having that low end and the bass there, not just the sub, but a nice sawtooth rubbery bass. And we cover that in the course. So in the indie pop course, there's a part where we go the 1975 bass sound module or lesson, where I walk you through how to create that 1975 bass type of tone. That would have been perfect here. That would have been really great to just have arpeggiate, that would have been really good to just give some drive, give some lift there, and really help that chorus explode and take off to the next section. Let me see if you do it in the next chorus. Yeah, we're missing that bass, man. That bass is such an important element of helping that song just go to the next level. Also, maybe even the reverb that's on the snare, great, but I think you're gating the reverb a little too much. Give a little bit more release so that it does have that, but just the tail can be a little bit longer so that it connects, that it connects to the next snare a little bit smoother. But all around, great work. I think those are two ways to really create some big lift on there. You can let me know in the comments of what do you guys think and if that makes any sense. Mark Carroll is asking, if I become a Beat Academy member, will I get access to this training for? Yes. Well, yeah, we have two tiers of membership. So the pro membership gives you every course that I currently have, as well as the community aspect and all the other mentorship opportunities that are there. And any course that get added during the duration of your pro membership, you get access to that. Our regular membership, with just $60 a year, and we'll give you access to the community, the exclusive breakdowns that I do, and all the exclusive stuff that are access to the members. But then you get a special pricing to the courses, and you can buy them a la carte. So encourage you, be a pro member, get all the courses grafted in there. We've got vocal production, mixing, mastering, producing indie pop, producing hip hop, producing EDM. We just added some new cool modules into that. But anyways, yeah, so I don't know if you're here watching, but you definitely want to incorporate some of that to this. I think it would be really, really cool. Got another tune here by Wildflower. Let's check this one out.
stars and stares at the fire. She dances to thunder, embraces the storm, and sings till the night. Just leave her be. Not know she's found. Just leave her be. Don't know she's found.
Wow, it's amazing. Wildflower, this is really, really great work. She's, how do I process? She's asking. I'm just, first of all, I'm always blown away with the amazing talent I find in our Beat Academy community. I mean, we've got some seriously talented people in here, guys. So thank you, man. This really humbles me, and it just gives me such an. I just get so excited to work alongside so many talented people. So you're asking, how do I process female vocals for indie pop? Well, in light of what I've just heard, I really do like the processing. I didn't really find anything I didn't find anything wrong with the way you're processing the vocal. But if you're trying to get, she's asking, I like to get that Chelsea Cutler sound. So the Chelsea Cutler or the Haim and a lot of these indie pop female vocals, Maggie Rogers, and we cover that in the indie pop course, by the way. A lot of those vocals, the intimate female vocals, are done with dryness. They have very intimate, so they're utilizing what's called the proximity effect. So the vocal is very close to the mic. There's going to be a lot more low end there, but yet it catches a lot of the intimate nuances, similar to what Billie Eilish is very known for. So yeah, it's not so much of the plugins added on there. It's really more on the performance and the way the delivery of the female vocal that's being captured that makes a big difference. So a lot of the indie pop females have this very light vocal performance and very up close, so they capture a lot of proximity, and they're somewhat dry and intimately placed in the mix. And I think those are some of the hardest things to accomplish, because when you have a dry vocal like that, it's out there in the spotlight, and any fluctuations with pitch or anything that's just whack gets noticed that much faster. But things like doubling, like subtle doubling on those vocals, can help smear and widen the vocal up a little bit, and that's a helpful thing as well. And you can get some plate reverb but eliminate a lot of the high end. And one thing that I like to do with indie pop female vocals is place a delay but before the reverb, so that the signal just takes a little bit of time before it's being processed, and it just kind of feels more further in the back, so that the lead vocal the lead vocal feels a bit more drier as the reverb signal is a little delayed and coming through. Does that make sense? Can you let me know? Let's check out Tim M. Gizzy.
Well, I've been waiting my whole life for someone to tell me it's alright, and I've spent all the time I had saved, hoping you were gonna change, growing up with my face to a screen, living life like a blue dream, conditioned to
would be cool too on this one? Well, this is great, man. See, these are people who are taking the indie pop course. This is awesome. This is awesome. Wow. I would maybe even have that 80s type of synth bass in there as well, just kind of tucked them, like kind of. Let me go into here. Let me just create one on the fly. Show you guys what I'm talking about. Use like a wavetable, any two oscillator. But let's say what were we doing? Dun, 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 right? So like, oh, that's weird. And let me just turn this off. Okay, I don't know why that happened. So oscillator 1, modulation wheel. So yeah, I would take sawtooth, right? Just get a sawtooth, bring the frequency cutoff down, all the way down, and map your cutoff frequency to an envelope. Let's say envelope 2. Bring that down. That's way too much here. All right, that's the note that she was playing. And then go here to the envelope and bring the sustain down. And let's put our second oscillator also to the sawtooth, and this will go a whole octave lower and start to detune this. Right? And then shorten this, so you got a short decay. And bring this. And bring it right down here. And change it from polyphonic to mono. And then adding a little bit of unison. I don't know why. I think it's just a weird delay. And then opening this up a little. So it's weird. I'm getting that is kind of like, oh, there we go. That's what's happening. I'm in the wrong. And open up the release so it doesn't just, yeah, and then lower the frequency, sorry. And so when you go down an octave, so just layering the bass line with this kind of, and then using the unison to widen it up a little bit and balancing the low end will kind of really help you. It just kind of creates the width. Right, so you've got your main bass line in the middle and the mono driving all the low end, and then you've got the one layered there to create some space in the wild, and it just really helps lift on there. Yeah, cover in detail in the indie pop course and creating that 1975 and M83 type of bass. So that was really, really great. It was really cool stuff. So we're going to wrap up our workshop today with some questions you guys might have, and I'm just gonna open table. Open table? Oh, that's something. Open floor. I am all over the place today. So open floor. What are some questions you guys might have? Could be about anything we covered. And then please let me know before you answer the question. Was this helpful? Would you like me to do this once a month? We can do these live workshops every now and then to kind of focus on a specific topic and walk you through kind of that topic at hand. Is this something you guys would like to do here? Godfrey Tobias says yes. All right, cool. Thanks for the vote of confidence. Benedict is asking, I'm a guitarist making funk disco style, and when I'm adding many rhythm guitar tracks, I always group them to make processing. What kind of advice can you give me to set them in the mix? Here's the thing when it comes to guitars. If you've got different rhythm guitar takes, meaning that they're actual different types of performances, and you're not just doubling one rhythm guitar part and you're stacking and you're layering that, it could get really messy. So I would individually process the different rhythm guitar plays and do a little bit of panning to kind of space them out. But if you've got like a guitar part and you're just only doubling it so that you can layer it and take it off and just do a hard pan left, hard pan right, I mean, that's cool too. But if you've got different guitar takes, different guitar melodic lines or rhythms, it could get a little messy. So pick one rhythm and then try layering it. And then if you're going to add another rhythm part, find a space where you can pan those rhythm parts and just create a little bit space in the mix. And then individually process that rhythm take and process this rhythm take slightly different, so that they're a little bit of different character in the takes themselves. That can kind of help when you're grouping all of them together. And then you can then create a guitar bus, but yet you're creating these small little buses inside the overall guitar bus to treat those different rhythms differently. Okay. Grab Buster saying, I'm thrilled to start the indie pop course. Man, that's awesome. Jump on it, because it's going to be 50% off till Monday night. So guys, take advantage of that. What did you use Spiff on the Crackle drum layer? What? Wigbee's, did I say that right? Wigbee, sorry. The Spiff on this track here? Oh, so I didn't use, oh, okay. So Spiff, I have Spiff here. Now, I had it off, and I was just A-Bing, I guess, in my mix. What I was trying to do was I just wanted a little bit more punch, and I was trying to see if, I was testing it out with Spiff, but then at the end of the day, in the context of the mix, I actually liked the way. I like where they're at, so I ended up not even using Spiff. So, Bajorn, was the female backing vocal some sort of instrument or heavily processed real vocal? Great question. So the vocal that we have going on in the chorus section, this guy here. This is a, I'm gonna unfreeze this track, but this was an arcade vocal chop, and this actually worked out really well. We originally just didn't have this section with the vocal chop, so this is what it sounded like beforehand. And what ended up happening was I was actually using arcade to find some kind of wind chime thing, opened up to that, and I was messing around with the vocal chain. I was like, whoa, that's really cool. Let's just have that become the main vocal spotlight. So I'm doing a little bit of filtering there, some EQing, and the compression is sidechained to the kick drum. And then I have just this CLA 76, this 1176 plugin by Waves. That's the process in there, but a lot of it is coming from the sends and returns here. So you can see there, I'm sending, we've got the spectral delay. Let me walk you through some of the returns. I think that's really important too. Spectral delay on return A. B has a slapback delay for the drums. Okay. The flanger for the drums. Here I have a spring reverb from Arturia, and I'm running a lot of reverb things. So I'm running that, and I've got another. I like combining reverbs as well because they help create dimension. So I hope that makes sense. Someone's saying a live stream where you get feedback from demos would be slick. Casimir, you definitely want to be a Beat Academy member because we do that all the time. As a matter of fact, we do that twice a month. All the members have access where we listen to their songs. Could be demos, could be things they're working on, could be finished songs. What the poop just happened? I think my MIDI controller. Oh, it's this thing here. Okay. That's what's going on. Sorry about that. But yeah. Surprise. Yeah, Beat Academy members, we do that. We do live listening sessions, so definitely become a member so you can take advantage of that. You could be working on something and be like, hey, I would love to just give me some feedback and help me see what needs this, how this can go to the finish line as well. So can you talk in a session about common positions of instruments in space? Yes, and I don't have the time, but basically what you're trying to create was, what you're trying to create is you're balancing out, kind of goes front to back, left to right, right? So I use my effects plugins to create the left to right. I'm sorry, the front to back. So reverbs, delays, they help, reverbs help bring things either front of the mix or back in the mix. Delays tend to help things go left and right in the mix. And so that's when I'm kind of utilizing my effects to help create the dimension with the elements I have. Whether you pan things to the left and right, that really just comes up to you. You can see there's not a lot of heavy panning here. Maybe a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. It does play a part in the vocals. The vocals are hard panned left to right. Harmonies are panned left to right. Some instruments, certain things, tambourines pan to the left. Small little things here pan, because a lot of my stuff are in stereo anyway, so I don't really have to pan a huge stereo track to the left and right. And if you'd use some off-key sounds for texture like Claro's Amoeba, where would you place those? Also, frequency range, should they only be for the main elements and in the like focus? Okay, what a great question. Let me actually point you to this. I use this a lot, and I have to probably stop using it already, but this Indian market track. All right, so this is just like a random audio that I've got there. And I'll highlight just a random section like this and just loop it. And I love just automatically quantizing. I will just quantize this, snap it to the nearest grid so that whatever artifacts in there snap to the grid and kind of feels like it's in time with the rhythm. And it's got a lot of hiss and noise to it, so bring it down in the mix and add texture to your drums or your tracks. And I increase the side processing a little bit, so just kind of it's there in the background. So it's to be felt and not necessarily heard. I don't know if that answers your question. A lot of indie pop that I'm listening to has unique texture to some stuff, so Weebika. Oh, thank you so much for that. I'm sorry I butchered it earlier. Are the drums stanky? I don't know, I guess. Yeah, so that bridge section is really cool. All right, before we wrap up, any other specific questions? Once again, we were talking about producing indie pop. I was walking you through a song by Jared Evan called Spaces that I produced and wrote with Jared, tracked. And by the way, these vocals are recorded directly into Ableton. I know I had a lot of people ask me, do you record in Pro Tools or Studio One and then import them? I do all my vocal tracking in Ableton. Everything, top to bottom. The spark of inspiration for the song, all the way down to the mix, was all done here in Ableton Live. Took some time for me to get used to tracking vocals, but especially with Ableton Live 11's vocal comping stuff, it was a game changer for me. So yeah, I tracked directly on here, and it's done great. Here's all the vocal comps that I've got, right? So with Ableton Live 11, I can now go through and pick the right vocal takes that work for me and just highlight it and hit enter and just send that up to the main track. So does a great job. Can you humanize the timing of drums in Ableton using random? I know you can do that in Pro Tools, but in Ableton seems you can only random velocity. Oh no, absolutely. Yes, you can. You can absolutely do the timing. As a matter of fact, here with drums in Ableton Live, you notice right here on the bottom it says velocity. You can open this up and it says chance. So you can actually adjust the chance that sound will actually be played. So everything is set to 127%, but this is a great tool to come up with different variations. So you can copy a 4-bar loop and pencil in and change the chance that certain things are going to be hit, and that also will humanize it. This is great for ghost notes and things like that. And once you've done that, you'll see a little black dot here, and that tells you that, hey, you've written, or there's a possibility this note won't play. These are your vocals? No, this is the artist Jared Evan. Jared Evan here that we're listening to.
Look at you fall in love. Tell me you don't.
Any tips or on better differentiating versus chorus melodies? Oh wow. Yeah. I go in complete in-depth on that on our songwriting and arranging course, as well as the indie pop course. I do cover the arrangement and the vocal arrangement as well in there. So just for the sake of time, probably won't go into that. But yeah, I go fully in-depth in that in the course as well. Next, Static. Really love your work. Thanks for your videos. My pleasure. Thanks for visiting. Richie B, good to see you, man. Okay, here's a question from Collection IT. What external drives do you recommend for live backup sample files, VSTs? I always get my drives from OWC, Otherworld Computing, or Maxsales, same website, but I get them from there. They just build quality drives, and for years I've been purchasing all my drives there, and I'll have 3 external drives. I actually just recently did a video on my system for backing up and for saving. Got 3. I save a backup here, and I have a backup of a backup, and then I do the cloud backup as well. So yeah, and as a matter of fact, Tuesday is my backup day, so I got to back up all the stuff. Really excited to check out the new vocal stuff in the course. Thank you. I'm excited to add it too. So by next week, I'm going to be adding some new lessons into the indie pop course. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. This workshop was mostly focused on indie production. We're going to do another one next month. Everybody was saying we should keep doing these, so I will do another one. Let me know. Maybe our next live workshop could be on vocal production, where we've spent a lot of time in, trying to, how would you produce and get this type of vocal and things like that. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know, was this a helpful workshop? Because if it doesn't help you, then I don't want to do these at all. Not because it's wasting my time, but I want something to be, I want this to be of value to you guys. I want this to impact you guys. And yeah, so Keith says, yes, more please. Jeff Goat, this was awesome. Seb, thanks, this was great. Grabbuster, many thanks. V, what's up, V? Thank you, very helpful. I know V's a fan of the tune. Surreal Gate, amazing time spent here. The link to the video of the drives are on this YouTube channel. Great workshop. We're all learning. Marcos, thank you guys. Well, listen, go deeper, right? You can go ahead, click the link below in the description box. The Producing Indie Pop course, it's currently on sale. My gift, I want to discount it and want you guys to take advantage of that. The sale will end at Monday midnight, so jump on that. Check it out, right? And for those of you curious, and those of you who were like, hey, how do I get you to listen to my songs, give feedback? And if you're looking for mentorship opportunities, my Beat Academy members in here will tell you, not only do you have accountability with the community, but I'm literally posting like job opportunities and placement opportunities, sync opportunities in there. We're like, hey guys, work with me on this project. So a lot of that's about to crank up soon. So if you want to take Beat Academy for a spin and see if it's right for you, and if it's not right for you, that's totally fine. It's not personal. I want to make sure that this is right for you, and this is also for those who are serious about taking their next step. So check out beatacademy.com. Check out the membership. Remember, pro membership gives you all the courses and availability and access to all that. Regular membership, just $60 a year, but I'll even give you a free month. So just check it out, guys. Visit the website and see if it's the right fit for you. Indie Pop course, 50% off. Click the link below. Visit that and dive deeper into capturing the sound and making it your own in your own production. So guys, this is great. I'm really looking forward to doing a lot more of these. No Data says, hey, the course is totally worth it. Thank you, Donata, for that. Are you going to publish this video? Yes, I'm going to leave this video up for the next couple of days so you guys can backtrack and maybe pick up a couple things that we shared in this workshop. All right. Well, guys, This was great. Thank you for being awesome. And I will see you on the inside. Take care, guys.